In today's video, I'm reviewing a 1993 Honda Prelude. The Honda Prelude is a sport coupe that was produced by Honda from 1978 through 2001, spanning a total of 5 generations. This is the 4th generation of the Prelude, which was produced from 1991 to 1996. Since they discontinued the Prelude in 2001, the closest you can get to a Honda Prelude in today's market is a 2-door Honda Accord. Now, I have very fond memories going back to the 3rd generation of the Honda Prelude. My aunt and uncle bought one back when I was a little kid in a very similar bright red as this model. And I remember thinking at the time that they bought a Ferrari. I couldn't really distinguish the difference between a Prelude or a Ferrari. But to be fair, it is a very sporty looking car, and in that Ferrari red, easy to mistake as a Ferrari if you're just a child. This Prelude has definitely seen better days over the course of its 25-year life and 240,000 miles of use. And that's reflected in the general paint condition and some of the other wear and tear on the vehicle. But despite that, for a vehicle that's 2.5 decades old, it still has a really cool look to it. It's very sporty, it's something you can get excited about, and it's fun to drive too. There's definitely a cult following for the Honda Prelude. A lot of people that would like to see the Honda Prelude model brought back to the Honda lineup. The 2-door Accord is a really great model as well, but it just lacks a little bit of the unique styling and flavor that you got with the Prelude. One thing unique about the 4th generation model of the Prelude is that they went away from the recessed headlights. So prior versions of the Prelude had the headlights recessed in the hood, and they could mechanically open when in use. The sunroof design on this vehicle is also unique compared to today's modern standards. You'll see it's a metal panel that opens, so it tilts up and slides backward. This Prelude has been modified slightly. Those wheels are not stock wheels. And unfortunately, they also changed the exhaust. One unique thing about the Honda Prelude is that it was offered with 4-wheel steering. While the Prelude's heavily based off the Honda Accord, it does have a unique appearance to it. But you can notice a few of the design cues that carry over from that Accord model. Looking at the front grille, for example, you can definitely see the Accord in the front here. Those headlights are very similar, and yet it's got this little piece in the middle, differentiating it slightly. This is the SI model of the Prelude. Several different trim packages offered. Overall, a pretty cool car. Despite the wear and tear on this specific model, it's got a very unique look to it. I actually think that the Subaru BRZ, the Toyota 86, and the Scion FRS must have stolen some of the design cues of this vehicle when they were coming out with those models. Certainly the overall layout of those vehicles is definitely heavily based off of this design. Offers kind of a modern interpretation of the Prelude. The 4th generation of the Prelude was offered with either a 2.2 liter 4-cylinder that had 133 horsepower or a 2.3 liter VTEC 4-cylinder with 158 horsepower. Either engine was paired to a 4-speed automatic or 5-speed manual. Miles per gallon range from 19 to 21 in the city and 24 to 28 on the highway. All models of the Prelude are front-wheel drive. Jumping inside the Prelude, you'll see it has a very sporty style to it that's also retro and definitely characteristic of the early 90s. See the placement of all the controls just has a very unique appearance to it. Got our power door locks, power windows. Got the vent built right into the door. Of course, the fabric material is also very 90s in appearance. This is the 5-speed manual, so it's a lot of fun to drive. Perhaps the most unique thing about the interior of the Prelude is this dashboard, which has a very, again, unique 90s appearance to it, with all of your gauges, clock, warning indicators inset back there. It's funny, this has a early 90s look to it, and yet at the same time you look at some of the electric concepts in today's market, and a lot of those electric concepts have a very similar design, where that whole area along there on the dashboard is a giant computer screen. So it's almost like we're going back to that look, but with modern technology. Control here for the sunroof, cruise control. Got an aftermarket stereo, climate control. Power mirrors are uniquely placed in the middle here. Center console. Seats have a very sporty profile to them. Definitely designed to hug the occupants for cornering. Interesting feature here, they're manual seats, and yet it's got this little memory button. I'm not quite sure how that works, but my thinking is that when you pull this lever to access the rear seat, when you put it back into position, that memory button would save that position, probably as this slides forward. As we saw up front, the rear seats are also very sporty in their profile, designed for quick cornering, also very tight on legroom. So you can see with the passenger seat pushed back quite a ways, doesn't leave any space for that rear passenger. And then of course we've got these lovely wires from the prior owner, going from the stereo to those rear speakers. As we jump to the back, you can see that despite the fact that the Prelude is designed to appeal to someone that's looking for a very sporty car, it's also very practical. Plenty of cargo space. It's definitely unfortunate that the prior owner made modifications to this vehicle. When you accelerate, the exhaust does not sound impressive. Makes me a little self-conscious sitting at the stoplight next to the Toyota Camry, or anybody for that matter. But that modification could certainly be undone, and it's not all that uncommon among Preludes. Yep, not my sound, no thanks. Now, despite that obnoxious noise coming from the rear of the vehicle, the Prelude is a lot of fun to drive. The 5-speed manual definitely helps with that, but it's also got a very sporty profile to it. You know, you're sitting very low, it's got a very aggressive feel to it, and it's small and nimble. It just makes for a very fun vehicle to drive. It's no wonder that there's a cult following for the Prelude, as it certainly is a really driver-focused vehicle. Now, as I mentioned, this model has over 240,000 miles on it, so it has been well loved and well used. Definitely has made an impact on the overall condition of the vehicle. Some of the electrics in the vehicle are not working that great. The antenna that pops out of the rear and comes up, recesses into the trunk of the vehicle when the vehicle is off, no longer works, and so it's stuck in that up position. But when you turn the vehicle on or off, you hear the motor trying to pull it down or push it back up. The driver window doesn't work anymore, and that's about as far as I got with the electronics. I decided not to test out the sunroof or the passenger window. As much as Hondas are known for their mechanical reliability, the same is not necessarily said about the electronics. I'd say that they're par for the course in that department. Despite the fact that this is a 25-year-old vehicle, I was excited to drive it, not only because it gives me that chance to reminisce on the third-generation model that my aunt and uncle owned, but also just because it's a unique vehicle that has a definite following, and I thought it'd be a really fun car to try out. It's also fun to just go back to another era and see how vehicles performed in the past. And it's funny because 1993 doesn't seem all that old to me, yet at the same time, looking at 25 years, it's definitely up there in age. With that, kind of a dying breed. I mean, these vehicles are not going to be around for that much longer, and it's fun to get the opportunity to experience what a kind of sports car felt like back in the early mid-90s. So that's a review of the 1993 Honda Prelude. It's a shame that Honda doesn't manufacture this model anymore, as it offered a really great package of sporty styling, a fun driving experience, great fuel economy, and Honda reliability. If you want a modern day version of the Prelude, your best bets are going to be the two-door Honda Accord, the Toyota 86, the Scion FRS, and the Subaru BRZ. If you have any comments or questions on the Prelude, leave those in the section below. For more car reviews, subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, thanks for watching.